Angels, created to serve heaven, but some betrayed it. They once stood in light, now they command darkness, and their rebellion didn't end in heaven. It still echoes here. These aren't demons from folklore. They were real celestial powers who saw God and still rebelled. Lucifer, heaven's brightest rebel. Before sin touched the earth, it began in the most unexpected place, heaven. Lucifer wasn't a villain. He was the masterpiece, brilliant, radiant, flawless. The prophet Ezekiel describes him covered in every precious stone, topaz, sapphire, diamond. He was the anointed guardian who walked among the stones of fire, the angel closest to God's throne. He led choirs that made galaxies tremble. Every note of praise passed through him like light through crystal. But somewhere between the songs and the spotlight, Lucifer began to believe his own echo. The prophet Isaiah records his downfall in 5 deadly words. I will ascend above the stars of God. That was it. The first eye in history. The first time someone looked at perfection and wanted more. He wasn't content to reflect glory anymore. He wanted to own it. Heaven became divided. Michael, the warrior archangel, drew his sword. Lucifer drew followers, a third of heaven's host. And in the first war ever fought, light clashed with light. Revelation says, the dragon and his angels fought, but were not strong enough. Lucifer fell like lightning, wings once white, now scorched. His name, Morning Star, became adversary. He didn't just lose his position, he lost his purpose. From leading worship to leading rebellion. From bringing light to manufacturing lies. And that's how the devil was born. Lucifer proves evil doesn't always start ugly. It starts beautiful. It starts when worship turns inward. When the mirror replaces the throne. The Watchers. When heaven crossed the line, they were called the Watchers. Angels assigned to oversee mankind. Protectors, guardians, messengers. But somewhere along the way, they stopped watching and started wanting. The ancient text says, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they left their heavenly domain. They crossed the line between heaven and earth. The first forbidden union in history. They took human wives. Their children became Nephilim, giants of violence, strength, and pride. Half human, half celestial, all corrupt. But that wasn't the only crime. These angels taught humans things they weren't ready for. Sorcery, astrology, enchantments, the forging of weapons. Knowledge meant for stewardship became tools for sin. They gave humanity power without purity, and power without purity always leads to ruin. Soon the world was filled with bloodshed. Every thought, every invention, every culture turned toward corruption. So God acted. He chained the Watchers in the deepest darkness, awaiting judgment. Their punishment was so severe that even demons fear their prison. Why are they among the most evil? Because their sin didn't just rebel against heaven, it infected earth. They blurred the boundary between divine and human, and nearly erased the line between good and evil itself. The Watchers remind us, not every miracle is holy, and not every light comes from heaven. Azazel, the corrupter of mankind. From among the fallen Watchers, one name stood out, Azazel. While the others sinned through desire, he corrupted through design. Ancient Hebrew writings, ones even the New Testament writer Jude references, say Azazel taught men to forge swords and armor, and women to paint their faces and wear jewels. He turned God's gifts of beauty and skill into weapons of pride and bloodshed. He didn't just tempt humanity, he trained it. And soon, the earth was filled with violence and vanity. The story goes that God sent the archangel Raphael, bind Azazel hand and foot, cast him into the desert until the great day of judgment. That same wilderness later became the place where Israel sent the scapegoat to Azazel. It symbolized sin being sent back to the one who first twisted creation. Why is Azazel counted among the most evil? Because he didn't merely rebel. He industrialized rebellion. He took heaven's wisdom and turned it into humanity's downfall. His legacy? Knowledge without obedience. The birth of corruption disguised as culture. Abaddon, the destroyer of the abyss. When the Apostle John saw the final plagues of Revelation, he described something that sounded less like a vision and more like an invasion. A star fell from heaven to earth and was given the key to the abyss. Smoke rose like a furnace, and out of it came locust-like creatures, terrifying, intelligent, unstoppable. Their king had a name, in Hebrew, Abaddon, in Greek, Apollyon. Both mean the destroyer. He's not a myth, he's a real angel, one with rank, command, and fury. Revelation calls him the angel of the bottomless pit. Abaddon leads the army of darkness unleashed during God's judgment, creatures that torment but cannot kill, pain without death, justice without mercy. And yet, there's something terrifyingly controlled about him. He doesn't move on his own. He's given the key. Even destruction has to wait for permission. That means Abaddon isn't a free agent of evil. He's proof that God even commands the chaos. So why is he among the most evil? Because he embodies the end result of rebellion. Not temptation, not deception, but annihilation. Lucifer corrupted worship. The Watchers corrupted creation. Azazel corrupted culture. But Abaddon? He corrupts existence itself. He is the angelic general of ruin, the one who turns the key when hell is authorized to open. The Prince of Persia, the power behind empires. Daniel had been fasting and praying for 3 weeks. No answer, no dream, only silence. Then, finally, an angel appeared. But his first words weren't comfort. They were war report. From the first day you set your heart to pray, your words were heard. But the Prince of Persia resisted me for 21 days. This wasn't a man. It wasn't a politician. It was a fallen power, a spiritual ruler standing behind a human empire. For 3 weeks, heaven's messenger fought unseen until the archangel Michael came to help break through. What Daniel saw was the veil lifting, a brief look into the invisible politics that shape nations. Behind every throne, behind every regime, lies a battlefield not of soldiers, but spirits. The Prince of Persia was no ordinary demon. He was an ancient territorial spirit, one of the principalities and powers Paul later wrote about in Ephesians 6, a fallen angel assigned to influence kings, policies, wars, and culture. The machinery of empire. Why is he among the most evil? Because he doesn't destroy nations with fire. He corrupts them with influence. He whispers to rulers, stirs pride in governments, twists truth into propaganda, and feeds the lie that power is permanent. His warfare isn't noisy, it's strategic. When he wins, empires rise against God, and righteousness becomes illegal. Daniel's story ends with the angel saying, "After I go, the Prince of Greece will come." Another dark spirit waiting to take the next seat of power, because the battle between heaven and hell doesn't just happen in hearts. It happens in history. The Prince of Persia reminds us, evil doesn't just tempt individuals. It governs nations. Samael, the deceiver in the garden. Every story has a whisper behind it. In Eden, that whisper took the shape of a serpent. The Bible simply calls him the serpent. But early Hebrew tradition gave that whisper a name, Samael, a title meaning venom of God. He's not mentioned directly in Scripture, but ancient rabbis used the name to describe the same dark being Jesus later called a liar from the beginning. Samael represents the intelligence behind the snake, the voice that asked, "Did God really say?" Not shouting, just planting doubt. One question that fractured creation. In that moment, Eve didn't face a beast. She faced a theologian, a being who twisted truth until obedience sounded optional. Later writings call Samael the accuser and the angel of death, a spirit who tempts, then testifies, who lures you into sin, then prosecutes you for it. And while his name doesn't appear in the Bible, his fingerprints are all over it. From Eden's deception to Job's testing to Revelation's dragon still waging war against the saints. Why is he among the most evil? Because Samael doesn't need an army. He wins with a whisper. He turns faith into philosophy and turns God said into maybe. He's the serpent behind the serpent, proof that the deadliest evil doesn't roar. It reasons. The fallen star, keyholder of the pit. John saw it, a star falling from heaven to earth. But this was no comet. It was an angel, once radiant, now fallen, and given a key, not a crown, not a sword, a key. He opened the abyss, and smoke poured out like the breath of a furnace, darkening the sun, choking the sky. Then came the swarm, creatures shaped like locusts but ruled like soldiers, agents of torment, not death. The Bible never gives him a name, only a task. And that makes it worse, because this angel wasn't cast down for rebellion. He was sent down with permission. He was trusted once with access to divine power, and used it to unlock hell. That's the tragedy of the keyholder. He turned trust into treason, authority into destruction. He reminds us that even in heaven, the wrong hands can still hold the right key. The dragon's army, when heaven went to war. Lucifer's fall didn't end with him. It infected heaven. What began as one angel's pride became a movement, a revolt of light against light. Revelation describes it as a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought the dragon, and the dragon fought back with an army. Not demons yet, angels. Still radiant, still powerful, but no longer loyal. 1/3 of heaven turned away. That's not just a number. That's millions of voices who once sang holy, now chanting mine. It wasn't a battle for territory. It was a battle for truth, for who would define good itself. And when they lost, they weren't destroyed. They were cast down. Heaven's fallen became earth's darkness. Those who once built harmony now build deception. Those who once guarded creation now corrupt it. They became the network behind every other fall. The ones who whispered to the watchers, who guided Azazel's pride, who stirred empires through the Prince of Persia, and who will one day march with Abaddon when the pit reopens. That's the dragon's army, a kingdom built from pride, organized under rebellion, and patient enough to wait centuries for revenge. They're not chaos. They're strategy. The first false church, with worship that leads away from God instead of to Him. And that's why they're the most dangerous. Because they already saw heaven once, and they'll do anything to never bow to it again. Darkness spreads fast, but so does light. Join the side that still fights back. Subscribe and hit the bell, so when the next war breaks out, you'll know which side you're on.